is Kristi from Choose Wiser here, and today I have a very important message for you. And that is all those little changes that you're creating and doing to create a healthier home, families, or community, they're terribly important. They are. And sometimes I just don't think that we tell each other this enough. I mean, there are plenty of days that go by where I don't exactly feel this way even about myself. Sometimes maybe I'm trying to replace a product in the home and I can't find a safer option or one that's affordable or accessible. Or sometimes it's opening up a news headline and I become baffled about some of the human choices that we're making out there in our big wide world. Sometimes it can be something as simple as reading an article online and coming across all those nasty comments that people leave now, and they shoot at me like tiny little daggers, deflating my passion. It's times like this, when we waver or that we feel maybe alone in our quest, that we need to pause and hold on to the big picture. And that's the story I want to share with you today. A story that I call Every American's Once Upon a Time. Less than a dozen decades ago, in a land of hope and diversity, not so far away from where you're sitting right now, a young country was establishing itself in the world. The people of this time, they had a shift in the way that they were thinking, and they discovered a new way of creating and repurposing chemicals in a way that had never been done before. Many of these new uses were truly a gift to humanity, contributions that advanced technology and medicine and food production and everyday living. Life became abundant and tasks became easier. And economic opportunities, well, they twinkled and danced on the horizon, beckoning for more and more and more. Yet, a lonely, overlooked thread of knowledge was neglected amidst the fervor of conquering this new frontier. Some of the properties of these hard-working chemicals did not focus solely on their task at hand, but interacted with the people's very own surroundings. These property personas were unmasked slowly over decades until that they were revealed to be destructive or toxic to air and water and soil, to plants and to animals. Not all of them, of course, but some, well, possibly more than one could imagine, were never even determined at all if they were safe or not, and they became the unknowns. A few fearless forerunners, people with minds of science and hearts of passion, they observed what was going on. And these pioneers of protectiveness, they cried out and they cautioned to the people, our actions, our decisions, our creations, they interact and impact our surroundings, our water, our soil, and our air, and our birds, and our animals. And they said, we know so little about the health effects of our creations, and over the long term, and at low levels of exposure, or the hows and the whys. So over time, more of these chemical personas were identified, interacting with the people's very own bodies, sometimes as hormone disruptors or neurotoxins, or sadly, even as carcinogens. So more protectors stood up, and they wrote, and they spoke, and they educated, and they said, yes, yes, our actions impact our environment, but please, please realize that our environment impacts our very own beautiful bodies and those of our babies. By 1976, the elected leaders stood up and they called for legislation and called this the environmental disease of the century. And they created TSCA, the Toxic Substance Control Act. The people went back to focusing on their lives and their loved ones. And an entire generation grew up. That's us. And they gave birth to the next. Only to find out that after 4 decades, TSCA had failed to protect the people. Instead of banning harmful chemicals, the country had simply increasingly pumped and produced and absorbed and burned these known toxins and endless unknowns into their water and their soil and their air, their birds and their animals, and into their beautiful bodies and those of their babies. But this time, the people knew enough to know better, and they made changes in their homes. And businesses came forward and started to provide better for us options and choices. And legislation was starting to be introduced at city levels and state levels and at national levels. Some demanding TSCA reform and others supporting safer cosmetics or plastics or chemical families such as those that were persistent and bioaccumulative to be relooked at. Some bills made it further than others in the process, and others were negotiated into a muddled mess and died. And, well, the next chapter is being written now. This isn't a fairy tale, and it's not fiction. It's a memoir. This is our story, and this is what we need to hold on to. Granted, this is a simplified version, but this is our story. Of all the books written by scientists, investigative reporters, advocates, not one has been able to compose the end of this story. That is for us to do. And that is why what you do is so important. Sometimes it may feel like that you are very alone on this quest in your own home or your own community, but please don't let go of the fact that you are part of something big. A massive army of he's and she's and they's and us's who are all coming together to link arms. People who represent a wide, vast area of interests and concerns. People who are standing up for the clean air and water and plants and animals, and others who represent things like breast cancer prevention, fertility issues, autism, and learning disorders, all coming together. You are part of this tremendous, meaningful piece of history. Do one thing today. Take this video and share it forward to one person. One person in your community who is out there creating change, or maybe someone online who you don't even know who inspires you to be doing what you do. Because these people out there who are creating change, it's not easy. And your random act of thankfulness and showing them how much you are grateful for their place in our world will infuse their journey with purpose. Just like I hope to be doing for you. So until next time, enjoy the journey.